It's now time for the most important part of the show, besides that part that we just did with you, by the way. Michael's doing the karate chop, which means it's time for the terrible twos.
The bottom line.
Sasha, what's a better name for the final two questions of the show? The terrible twos or the bottom line?
Where we get down to really what the crux of this show is for us, what the bottom line of the show for us. What do you think is a better name?
Yeah, what are these two
dumb,
terrible
twos
best episodes?
Or bottom lines?
So what was the choice?
Bottom line it is. Okay.
All
everybody,
right, moving on. Line. All right. So terrible twos, the final two questions bottom of line. The show, the two most important questions. Here they come, fast and furious.
They're really the bottom line, these two questions. Yeah.
Michael Canyon Rosenberg. This is tough, Sasha. You're going to be put on the spot. But luckily, Michael goes first because he's the trailblazer. He's the brave one. On a scale of 1 to 10, Michael, what would you give this first episode of The Legend of Vox Machina, entitled The Terror at Tal Durai Part 1?
Part 1 only, yeah. I really have to think about this, and then I have to just look at my notes that I made the number already. It's 8.9 for me. I liked it a lot. Ryan was right. He was a little bit off on his prediction. He said 8.5.
Yeah, but I was going to go to
higher than that.
Wow, you were so close. What didn't you like about it? Or is it another question?
We've already covered that. Well, yeah, Michael didn't really say anything that he didn't like about it. That's true.
I mean, it was a really good show. It wasn't like a great, fantastic show that made me like, oh dang, oh whoa. It would, it was just like
you did do that. You did.
It was like, oh cool and ha 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 ha. So it wasn't like, whoa, ha ha ha. That would be a 10.
Yeah. So
okay, got it. Now I understand.
Sasha, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode?
10. And I will tell higher. It's just, it's just because it was so amusing, so unexpected. And Ryan was right. I almost watched episode 2, but then I was like, you know what? I cannot do that because it will not be fair. I don't want to get ahead. But believe me, guess what I'm going to watch tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Episode 2.
And 3 and 4 and 5, I'm going to binge the show. There's nothing left to watch. No. So I'm thinking 10. And I think if there are little small things that maybe weren't like, I don't know, like super, super cool. Like, yeah, too much cursing or whatever. Like that character that is not explained yet. I think we will see either more explanation or less of that, because it's sort of like first episodes always they establish the show, so they want to make sure that they get the attention. So maybe then it will like cool down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's a 10, and she also already answered the second question.
Oh, I did?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I glazed over because as soon as she said that, my first thought was whether it's going to be a show that she actually gives her full attention to binge or that she just puts on while she's doing other stuff. But you don't have to answer that yet.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to tell everybody that this show, for me,
or Ryan,
yeah, look, 8.1. I think for me it could be a very enjoyable show because I love all of the stuff that they're touching on. But I think that cussing just for cussing's sake almost takes you out of it, because if you're doing anything that feels forced, whether it's just cussing or gratuitous nudity or gratuitous violence out of nowhere that doesn't have any reason for it, then it's not really like that interesting. It actually kind of takes you out of the moment because you start thinking, oh, that I wasn't expecting that, not necessarily in a good way. So I think if they iron that out and not just throw bad words in there, just be like, can you believe it? We just cussed. We're going to do it again too. Just watch.
It's a cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, it would have worked better, I think, if they just did it 2 or 3 times or just put it in places where you expect it. Like at the beginning when they're like, holy shit or whatever, you're like, oh, I get it. But that's not really a huge knock against it. I think it's just something that they'll probably iron out later, hopefully, because more sophisticated writing, I don't think would cram stuff in that doesn't need to be in there. But it was other than that, like it's exactly what I'm looking for out of life. It's short, it's easy to watch, it's fast
Ryan's
paced.
getting into the second question also.
It has clearly defined characters. It's enjoyable. However, would I watch the second? Well, we're about to find out, everybody.
Right.
Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, question number 2 is, for the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of The Legend of Vox Machina. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, would you, of your own volition, freely and unforced, watch the second episode?
There's two things I want to talk about.
One is yes, you would.
The number one thing is I really liked, we didn't really get a chance to talk about everything about the show because there's so much to talk about. I really liked the animation. They weren't trying to be like some kind of fancy anime. It looked like 80s Saturday morning cartoon animation, or like afternoon after school animation. And I really like that. I mean, they weren't trying to be too fancy, but it was just enough. And then you can see from my background, like the whole sky behind them is awesome. Like everything about the animation was really good to me. The second thing I want to talk about is when they were tracking that dragon into the bushes, they noticed human footsteps, which makes me think that either somebody is there with the dragon or that the dragon is a shapeshifter.
Yes,
that they can drag, that they shapeshift from a human to a dragon. So that is enough mystery for me to be, and all the other good things about it.
And
for
part
me,
of their
I will
history.
And history and gummy berry juice. I will definitely be watching the second.
Yeah. I real quick, I definitely agree on the animation style. I don't like it when animation tries to get so stylized that it kind of takes you out of it, that you're like, people just don't look like that, or you know what I mean? Like it just takes me out of it. This one keeps it simple. Saturday morning cartoons. These are what they look like, not too crazy. Sasha, of your own volition, would you watch the second episode?
Well, yeah, as I released the spoiler already earlier, I definitely am going to watch the second and the rest of them. However, you asked me about whether I'm going to watch it like full attention or while cooking or something. Absolutely full attention. Because, yeah, I want to focus on that, and it's easy and it's beautiful and I love the animation and all of that. So we'll see.
You're going to treat it like a true 10. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. A true 10. And especially, also part of my 10 is, well, I already had a 10 on my mind, but also a big part of it is your research that you did about that, that they had this, whatever, crowdfunding campaign. That this is so cool. And I'm all for, supporting these things. So like a dream come true for everyone, right?
Well, for most everybody.
Here's the real question.
As for me,
is Ryan gonna open our mouths and puke into it?
I kind of always do that, really. Not only would I watch the second episode, but I may actually do it. I may actually make it a point to watch the next episode because I love this stuff. And I feel like there just is not nearly enough of this kind of stuff. I feel like the supply definitely does not match the demand for this. I feel like we're getting tons of live action fantasy. Thank goodness, ever since Lord of the Rings came and opened that door where they're like, oh, people like this. Yeah, nerds love this. Oh, let's make more. And then suddenly everything's everywhere. But as far as this animated stuff, like, or maybe it's happening everywhere and we just don't know about it. But I'm like, I feel like this is the first of this kind that we've seen since the 80s. So I'm very happy that there's this going on. I'm not 100% sure how much I like it. I feel like, we'll see, but there's certainly enough good elements in this for me to be happy that this exists. I hope that they kind of iron a couple things out and get rid of old Poindexter here, which I'm sure they won't. Sorry, I don't mean to pick on you, Poindexter. I just don't like you. But that's about it.
Right now,
everybody.
Eve England is saying, I knew it. I knew they would like it.
Yeah, we could talk about this for like 3 hours. Honestly, we could just go on for. We didn't even talk about why Grog is so cool and how much we like him and how perfect he is. And we know exactly that kind of character. All these characters are so perfectly stereotypical. They're great.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's about it for us. So everybody at home, if you'd like us to review something, just do what Eve England did when she made the suggestion. Say WTF and whatever show you'd like us to do in the comments below, and we will totally review it maybe. So
yeah, we'll totally consider it. We'll definitely put it in our spreadsheet with your name next to it, and then we'll think about that one.
We have like 100 of these things in our spreadsheet. So we hope you're enjoying Fantasy Month. There's more fantasy coming soon. And what I'm trying to say is this podcast was a nerd's fantasy.
This podcast was bear-tastic.
This podcast was very nerd educational for ordinary people like me.
Ordinary half demons. All right, everybody at home, thank you so much for joining us. We will.
It was
see you
very
next
bearable.
time.
That's a better one.
That's better. Your first joke was unbearable. Or pun, I guess I should say. Look, everybody, please give this video a like. If you're listening in, give it 5 stars, comment below, share with your friends, tell everybody you know, shout it from the rooftops, and always remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg likes to say.
Don't forget to register to be an organ donor, please. And once you've done that, don't forget to watch the first of things.
Fantasy freeze frame.
I couldn't help
Mike's
but
doing it this time.
magic. I just love magic so much.
Staff. I'm holding my
Magic.
staff, you guys.
Magic. I'm doing a free